Have you ever been betrayed, disrespected, hurt by someone you trusted? If so, you're not alone. All of us, at some point in our lives, have felt that sharp pain of betrayal, that burning rage when someone deliberately hurts us. And when that happens, the first thing that comes to mind is one powerful word: revenge. We want them to feel what we felt. We want justice. We want to balance the scales. But what if I told you that the revenge you're planning might be exactly what's keeping you trapped in pain? What if there was a far more powerful response, one that was tested by emperors, slaves, and philosophers over 2,000 years ago? The ancient Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, faced betrayals, exiles, torture, and even death. And all of them came to the same surprising conclusion: the best revenge isn't striking back. It's something far more powerful. Today, you're going to discover why Stoic philosophy transformed emperors, slaves, and warriors into masters of themselves, and how you can use these ancient principles to transform your pain into unshakable power. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to learn will completely change how you deal with those who've hurt you. Let's begin with Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world. He was emperor of Rome, commander of armies, someone who had the power to destroy anyone who offended him. And yet he wrote in his personal journal, which we now know as Meditations, a phrase that echoes through the centuries: "The best revenge is not to be like him who performed the injury." Think about that for a moment. The man who had all the power in the world to take revenge chose another path. Why? Because Marcus Aurelius understood something profound about the nature of revenge. When you seek revenge, you become exactly like the person who hurt you. You adopt the same mentality, the same cruelty, the same weakness of character. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, went even further. He spent years exiled on a remote island, separated from everything he loved, for political reasons beyond his control. He could have spent that time feeding hatred and plotting revenge. Instead, he wrote some of the most profound works on the nature of anger and resentment. In his essay on anger, Seneca writes something revolutionary. Anger always outlasts hurt. He explains that when someone hurts us, the initial pain might last minutes, hours, or days. But anger, resentment, the desire for revenge, these can last years, decades, even a lifetime. Seneca realized that revenge doesn't heal the original wound. It keeps it open, bleeding, infected. There's a fascinating story about Cato, another prominent Stoic, that perfectly illustrates this philosophy. One day, Cato was visiting the public baths in Rome when he was shoved and violently struck by another man. People around him expected a furious reaction. After all, Cato was an important figure and had been publicly disrespected. But when the commotion was broken up and the aggressor tried to apologize, Cato simply replied, "I don't even remember being hit." He chose not just to forgive, but to simply erase the event from his mind. For Cato, giving importance to this insult would be giving power to the aggressor. It would be allowing someone else's moment of stupidity to control his emotions. The Stoics saw revenge not as strength, but as weakness. It's easy to strike back. It's easy to let yourself be consumed by anger. What's difficult, what requires true strength of character, is maintaining your composure, your inner peace, your virtue in the face of provocation. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds good in theory, but how do I actually do this? How do I simply choose not to care when someone deeply hurts me? And that's the right question to ask, because Stoicism isn't just abstract philosophy. It's a practical system, a set of mental tools you can use immediately. And the most powerful tool in the Stoic arsenal is what Epictetus called the Dichotomy of Control. Epictetus was a slave who became one of the greatest philosophers in history. He knew what it was like to have no control over his own life, and it was precisely from this experience that he extracted his deepest wisdom. Epictetus opens his handbook, the Enchiridion, with these words: "Some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and in a word, whatever is not of our own doing." And it seems simple, but it's revolutionary. Think about when someone betrays or hurts you. What exactly is under your control in that situation? You can't control what they did. You can't turn back time. You can't force them to regret or suffer. You can't control what other people think about the situation. But you can control how you interpret what happened. You can control your thoughts about it. You can control your actions in response. You can control whether you'll let this destroy your inner peace or use it as fuel for your growth. And here's the secret. Most people don't understand. When you try to control what cannot be controlled, you guarantee your own suffering. You waste precious energy on a battle impossible to win. It's like trying to stop the ocean from making waves or trying to make the sun not set. Modern research confirms exactly what the Stoics discovered 2,000 years ago. During Stoic Week 2022, over 2,000 people participated in a study. They discovered that people who practiced controlling the controllables and letting go of what they cannot control had significantly higher levels of life satisfaction, personal flourishing, and positive emotions. Specifically, controlling the controllables had an extremely high correlation with personal flourishing, and letting go of what you cannot control had a particularly significant association with the balance between positive and negative emotions. Modern science is validating what the Stoics always knew. So when someone hurts you, the first thing you need to do is ask yourself, what is really under my control here? The answer is usually only my response. And that's good news, because your response is the only thing that really matters. Now let's talk about why revenge is so tempting and at the same time so destructive. Seneca dedicated an entire essay to this because he understood that anger is one of the most dangerous emotions a human being can experience. He writes, "Anger is temporary madness." Think about that. When you're angry, you're not yourself. You say things you don't mean. You do things you later regret. You make decisions your rational self would never make. Anger hijacks your mind and transforms you into someone you don't recognize. Seneca also gives us one of the most powerful metaphors about dealing with insults and offenses. He says, "You wouldn't kick back a mule, nor would you bite a dog." Why? Because you understand that this is simply what mules and dogs do. It's not personal. It's just their nature. The Stoics invite us to see people who hurt us the same way, not because they're animals, but because they're acting according to their own ignorance, their own wounds, their own lack of wisdom. Seneca writes, "It is the part of a great mind to despise wrongs done to it. The most contemptuous form of revenge is not to deem one's adversary worth taking vengeance upon." Francis Bacon, centuries later, echoed this sentiment when he wrote, "A man that studies revenge keeps his own wounds green, which otherwise would heal." That's a powerful image. Every time you relive the offense, every time you plan your revenge, every time you feed your resentment, you're preventing your wound from healing. You're keeping it open, bleeding. And here's the cruelest paradox of revenge. It makes us dependent on those who hurt us. Think about it. When you're obsessed with taking revenge on someone, you're giving that person immense control over your life. You're waking up thinking about them. You're spending your day plotting against them. You're going to sleep with thoughts of them. This person who already hurt you once is now hurting you repeatedly because you can't get them out of your mind. The Stoics had a name for this: voluntary slavery. You become enslaved to the person who hurt you. And the irony is that often this person isn't even thinking about you. They've moved on. While you're consumed by anger, they're living their life. Who's really suffering here? So what's the Stoic alternative? Indifference. But not the cold, cruel indifference we imagine. Stoic indifference is something much deeper and more powerful. It's the recognition that some people and some situations simply don't deserve your time, your energy, or your emotional well-being. Epictetus has a phrase that should be engraved in all our minds. Who then is invincible? The one who cannot be upset by anything outside their reasoned choice. Read that again. You become invincible not by developing external armor, but by developing an internal fortress so solid that nothing external can penetrate it. Imagine someone insults you. Most people react immediately. They feel hurt, get angry, want to strike back. But Epictetus teaches us that you're only hurt if you choose to believe you've been hurt. He says, remember, it is not enough to be hit or insulted to be harmed. You must believe that you are being harmed. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. This is a radical idea. You weren't automatically harmed just because someone tried to harm you. The damage only occurs if you allow it to occur, if you give mental consent to it. It's as if someone threw you a fireball, but you have the choice to catch it or let it pass. There's a wonderful modern case that illustrates this. A man named Walter was teaching Stoic philosophy in a bar when a drunk man spat on him. Walter could have reacted with anger. He could have started a fight. Instead, he simply labeled the spit mentally as dirty water, just dirty water. He went home, took a shower, and congratulated himself for avoiding a pointless fight. Walter applied the dichotomy of control perfectly. He couldn't control the drunk man or his actions, but he could control his interpretation of the event and his response to it, and by doing so, he kept his inner peace intact. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization, or premeditation of evils. It might sound pessimistic at first, but it's incredibly practical. The idea is to imagine in advance the worst things that could happen to you. You could be betrayed, you could be insulted, you could lose something precious. Why do this? Because when you've already considered these possibilities, when they actually happen, you're not caught by surprise. You've already planned your response. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every morning. He reminded himself, today I will encounter meddling, ungrateful, violent, treacherous, envious, and antisocial people. They are like this because they cannot distinguish good from evil. But he didn't stop there. He continued, but I have seen the nature of good, and seen that it is beautiful, and the nature of evil, and seen that it is ugly, and the nature of the offender, and seen that he is my kinsman. Not in the sense of shared blood, but of shared intelligence, and a share of the divine. So none of them can harm me, no one can drag me into ugliness, nor can I be angry at my kinsman or hate him. This is Stoic indifference in action. It's not ignoring evil, it's recognizing it, understanding it, but not allowing it to control or corrupt you. Now let's talk about what it really means to live well as a form of revenge. The Stoics didn't believe in success for success's sake. They weren't motivated by money, fame, or power. What they sought was something much deeper, virtue. Stoic philosophy is built on 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. And each of these virtues is, in a way, a powerful response to those who've hurt you. Wisdom is the ability to see things as they really are. When someone betrays you, wisdom allows you to see that this person is acting from their own ignorance, their own wounds, their own fears. Wisdom frees you from the need to take their actions personally. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right, despite fear. When someone hurts you, it takes courage not to strike back, not to lower yourself to their level. It takes courage to maintain your integrity when it would be so easy to abandon it. Justice, in the Stoic sense, means treating others fairly and kindly, even when they don't deserve it. Not because they deserve it, but because you're the kind of person who acts justly. Your kindness isn't conditional on others' behavior. It's an expression of who you are. Temperance is self-control. It's the ability to moderate your emotions, not to be carried away by anger or the desire for revenge. It's keeping calm when everyone around you is losing their heads. Marcus Aurelius lived these virtues in one of the most challenging positions imaginable. He was emperor of Rome, constantly surrounded by conspiracies, betrayals, and threats. Many of his own generals and advisors tried to usurp his power. His own wife, according to some accounts, may have betrayed him. And yet, Marcus Aurelius didn't become a vengeful tyrant. He didn't execute everyone who challenged him. Instead, he treated even his enemies with surprising dignity. When General Avidius Cassius declared himself emperor and led a rebellion, Marcus Aurelius didn't respond with brutal violence. When Cassius was eventually killed by his own troops, Marcus Aurelius even asked the Senate to spare Cassius's family. Why? Because Marcus Aurelius understood that his response to enemies defined who he was. He wrote, "The best way to avenge yourself against an enemy is not to become like him. Every act of mercy, every moment of self-control, every choice of virtue over revenge was a statement of who he chose to be." And this is the crucial point. Living well isn't about proving something to those who hurt you. It's about proving something to yourself. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing that no matter what others did, you maintained your integrity. You didn't allow their cruelty to corrupt you. Seneca expressed this perfectly. If what you have seems insufficient to you, then, though you possess the world, you will yet be miserable. External success, money, status, power, doesn't bring peace if you don't have inner peace. You can have revenge and still feel empty. But if you have virtue, if you live according to your principles, you have something no one can take from you. The Stoics talked a lot about living according to nature. But what does that really mean? It doesn't mean going back to the forest and living like an animal. It means living according to your rational nature, using your capacity for reason to guide your actions, instead of being driven by impulsive emotions. Your rational nature tells you that revenge is useless, that it hurts you more than anyone else. Your rational nature tells you to focus on what you can control. Your rational nature tells you to seek virtue above all. When you live according to this rational nature, you're in harmony with yourself and with the universe. Now let's talk about one of the most powerful concepts in Stoicism: transforming obstacles into the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote one of the most quoted phrases in all of philosophy: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about what this means when applied to someone who hurt you. This person, this situation, this obstacle. It's not something preventing you from living a good life. It's the very tool you use to build a good life. Betrayal becomes an opportunity to practice forgiveness. Injustice becomes an opportunity to practice equanimity. Insult becomes an opportunity to practice self-control. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate. It's not just accepting what happens to you, it's embracing it, loving it, wanting things to be exactly as they are, because it's through these challenges that you become who you're meant to be. Marcus Aurelius practiced something called premeditation of evils. Every morning, he imagined the worst things that could happen that day. He could be betrayed, he could be insulted, he could face terrible news, and then he mentally planned how he would respond with virtue to each of these situations. Why do this? Because when you've already considered the worst-case scenario and planned your virtuous response, when it actually happens, you're not caught by surprise. You don't act on impulse. You act according to your principles. Imagine if you did this. Imagine if every morning you thought, "Today, someone might disrespect me. Someone might lie about me. Someone might try to harm me, and when that happens, I will respond with calm, dignity, and virtue. When these moments actually arrive, you'll be prepared. You won't be carried away by anger. You'll be guided by reason. And here's something even deeper. When you transform obstacles into opportunities, you actually begin to be grateful for them, not in a masochistic way, but in a deeply philosophical way. You realize that without these challenges, you never would have developed strength of character. Without this betrayal, you never would have learned who you really are and what you're capable of. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You don't grow in the absence of challenges, you grow through them." Now, we need to address the question of forgiveness, because many people think Stoicism means forgiving everything and everyone. But the truth is more nuanced than that. The Stoics don't talk much about forgiveness the way we think of it today. They talk about something closer to rational indifference or detachment. The difference is subtle but important. Forgiving in the traditional way implies that you were hurt. You carry resentment, and then you do the emotional work of letting it go and offering reconciliation. Stoicism suggests a different approach. You acknowledge what happened, but you don't allow yourself to be emotionally disturbed by it in the first place. Cato didn't forgive the man who hit him. He simply didn't remember being hit. He didn't carry the offense long enough to need to forgive it. He discarded it immediately as irrelevant to his well-being. But this doesn't mean being a doormat. The Stoics understood the difference between accepting that something happened and approving of what happened. You can accept that someone betrayed you. That's simply acknowledging reality. But you don't need to approve of the betrayal or keep that person in your life. Seneca writes, "It is the part of a great mind to despise wrongs done to it." The most contemptuous form of revenge is not to deem one's adversary worth taking vengeance upon. This isn't forgiveness in the traditional sense. It's something more powerful. It's removing the person from a level of importance in your life where they can affect you emotionally. You can establish firm boundaries. You can remove toxic people from your life. You can protect yourself from future harm. All of this is consistent with Stoicism. What isn't consistent is carrying anger, resentment, and the desire for revenge. These emotions only harm you. Marcus Aurelius had an interesting practice when dealing with difficult people. He reminded himself that these people were essentially ignorant. They don't know what's good for them. They're acting according to a flawed understanding of reality. And how can you really be angry at someone who's simply confused about what's good? It's like being angry at a child who doesn't know better. You might be frustrated, you can set boundaries, you can teach them if they're willing to learn, but deep, lasting anger. That doesn't make sense when you understand that the person is simply operating from ignorance. So Stoic forgiveness isn't about saying it's okay to someone who hurt you. It's about saying, this has no power over me, to yourself. It's about reclaiming your inner peace, not giving absolution to another person. Now, all of this is wonderful philosophy, but how do you actually live this day to day? How do you transform these ancient concepts into modern practices that work in your office, in your family, in your relationships? The Stoics were extremely practical. They didn't just talk about philosophy, they lived it, and they developed specific practices you can implement immediately. First practice, daily journaling. Marcus Aurelius kept what we now call meditations, but originally it was just his personal journal. Every night he reflected on his day. What did he do well? Where did he fail to live according to virtue? How could he do better tomorrow? You can do the same. Every night, grab a notebook and write, "Today, someone disrespected me." My initial reaction was anger. But what was really under my control? Only my response. I could have chosen indifference. Tomorrow, I'll practice better. Why? This simple process of reflection transforms experiences into lessons. Every insult, every betrayal, every injustice becomes data for your personal growth. You're not just passively living through these experiences. You're actively extracting wisdom from them. Second practice, the view from above visualization. Marcus Aurelius frequently practiced imagining himself seeing his life from a cosmic perspective. He imagined floating above Earth, seeing cities, people, events, everything becoming tiny and insignificant in the vastness of the universe. When you do this, when you imagine seeing your fight, your betrayal, your insult from a cosmic distance, it suddenly seems much less important. You realize that, on the grand scale of time and space, this offense is infinitesimally small. Why would you give it so much power over your inner peace? Third practice, memento mori. Remember death. This might sound morbid, but it's incredibly liberating. The Stoics regularly reminded themselves that they're going to die. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." When you remember that your life is limited, that you have a finite number of days, hours, and minutes, wasting that precious time on anger and revenge suddenly seems absurd. Do you really want to spend your last years, months, or days obsessed with someone who hurt you? Or do you want to use them to live virtuously, to love deeply, to contribute meaningfully? Fourth practice, the circle of control. Every morning, draw 3 concentric circles. In the inner circle, write everything that's completely under your control today. Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your attitude. In the middle circle, write things you have some influence over but not total control. Relationships, work, health. In the outer circle, write things completely outside your control. The past, others' actions, the weather, the economy. Now commit to spending 90% of your energy on the inner circle, maybe 10% on the middle circle, and 0% on the outer circle. When you catch yourself obsessing over something in the outer circle, like what someone did to you in the past, consciously redirect your attention to the inner circle. What can you do now? How can you act virtuously now? Fifth practice, the adversary as teacher exercise. Every time someone hurts or challenges you, mentally thank them for giving you an opportunity to practice virtue. This isn't sarcasm, it's genuine. Without this difficult person in your life, how would you practice patience? Without this betrayal, how would you practice forgiveness? Without this obstacle, how would you practice resilience? Marcus Aurelius had a wonderful phrase for this. External things are not the problem. It's your assessment of them, which you can erase right now. He understood that all harm we experience is self-inflicted, in the sense that it comes from our interpretations of events, not from the events themselves. This doesn't minimize the reality of what happened. If someone betrays you, the betrayal is real. But the lasting suffering comes not from the betrayal itself, but from how you continue to think about it, how much mental space you give it, how much you allow it to define you. And finally, the most important practice of all, commit to virtue above all. Every morning, make a declaration to yourself. Today I will act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, no matter what others do. My virtue is not conditional on others' behavior. It's an expression of who I am. When you anchor your identity in virtue rather than external outcomes, you become invulnerable. Someone can betray you, but they can't make you betray your principles. Someone can insult you, but they can't make you respond with insults. Someone can try to destroy you, but they can't destroy your character unless you allow it. So where does this leave us? Let's recap the main lessons we've learned from the 3 great Stoics. From Marcus Aurelius, we learned that the best revenge is not to be like him who performed the injury. We learned that obstacles don't block the way, they are the way. We learned that we have power over our mind, not outside events, and that realizing this is where we find strength. From Seneca, we learned that anger always outlasts hurt. We learned that revenge keeps our wounds open. We learned that a great mind despises offenses, and that the most powerful form of revenge is not to deem one's adversary worthy of it. From Epictetus, we learned the dichotomy of control, that some things are within our power and others are not, and that all our peace depends on making this distinction clearly. We learned that we are invincible when we cannot be disturbed by anything outside our reasoned choice. We learned that we are not harmed by events, but by our opinion about events. These aren't just beautiful ideas. They're practical tools that transformed slaves into philosophers, that allowed emperors to rule with wisdom, that helped countless people over 2,000 years find peace amid chaos. And now these tools are available to you. You don't need to wait to be older, wiser, or in a better situation. You can start now, today, this moment, to apply Stoicism to your life. The next time someone hurts you, remember, you have a choice. You can follow the impulse for revenge, perpetuating the cycle of pain and becoming exactly like the person who hurt you. Or you can choose the Stoic path, the path of virtue, of self-control, of transforming obstacles into opportunities. You can choose to focus on what's under your control, your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your character. You can choose to see the person who hurt you not as an enemy to be destroyed, but as someone operating from ignorance, someone who, in a strange way, is giving you an opportunity to practice your highest virtues. You can choose to live so well, so virtuously, so at peace with yourself, that revenge becomes irrelevant, because your tranquility, your integrity, your unshakable character, these things are more valuable than any momentary satisfaction revenge could bring. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, chose this path. Seneca, during years of unjust exile, chose this path. Epictetus, a slave who had no control over anything in his external life, chose this path. And through these choices, they didn't just find peace, they became immortal. Their words still resonate, still transform lives, still offer wisdom 2,000 years later. You may not become an emperor or a famous philosopher, but you can become the best version of yourself. You can become someone who isn't shaken by life's storms, someone who maintains their integrity no matter what others do, someone who transforms pain into wisdom, obstacles into opportunities, enemies into teachers. This is what it means to live stoically. And when you live this way, you discover something surprising. You no longer need revenge, because you already have something infinitely more valuable. You have peace. You have virtue. You have yourself. Marcus Aurelius ended his meditations with a simple but profound reminder. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That's your call. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel more ready. Not when circumstances are perfect. Now. In this moment, be the person you want to be. Live with virtue. Practice self-control. Transform obstacles into opportunities, and discover that the best revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was simply becoming unbreakable. The power has always been in your hands. The power to choose your response, the power to choose your thoughts, the power to choose your character. Use that power wisely. Use it to build a life that can't be shaken by any betrayal, any insult, any injustice. Use it to become truly free. Because in the end, the only real prison is the one we build in our own minds with our angers, our resentments, our desires for revenge. And the key to that prison has always been in your pocket. You just need the courage to use it. The Stoics showed you the way. Now it's up to you to walk it. And when you do, when you truly embrace these principles and live by them, you'll discover something extraordinary. You'll become invincible. Not because nothing bad can happen to you, but because nothing bad can truly touch you. your inner fortress, your virtue, your peace. These are unchangeable, indestructible, eternal, and no one, absolutely no one, can take that from you. That is true freedom. That is true victory. That is the best revenge of all.